Let's learn some stuff today, shall we? Shall we learn some stuff? Okay, you know what's funny? So you look up blood libel, right? And the first thing that pops up is an accusation that J people used the blood of Christians in religion, especially in the preparation of Passover bread that was prepared through the Middle Ages and specifically until the 20th century. So it's funny because the people that always make the claim are the Jays. And they'll say everything is blood libel. If you say the Jays are poisoning drinking water wells, they start crying that that's blood libel. And so you have to like it. They use that shit. I I wasn't even sure what blood libel necessarily meant until yesterday. And the only reason I came across blood libel is because I was looking up well poisoning. And it's so fascinating that like it is the way it is and people just sort of ignore it. Like if I say to you, give me a culture that's known to poison wells, give me a group of people that's known to poison drinking water, you're not going to have any other statement. Nobody's going to say anything. If you know about it, then the only ones you know that do it are the Jays. And I think that's so interesting that such specific accusations follow one group of people for apparently throughout history. And that's again if you believe history is what they tell us it is, and I absolutely don't. But it's really interesting how that works. Like, it's not like people are like, those darn Arabs, they keep poisoning drinking water wells. That doesn't happen. Those darn Christians, they always fight so dirty and poison the drinking water supply of the community they're about to attack. Nope, never happens. There's only one group that falls into that category, and they instead of disproving the accusation, disproving the accusation and proving that someone is lying, the only the only thing that you get is that you're not supposed to say it. That's blood libel. That's bad. But I mean, I was sort of fascinated by the whole thing because it's not like you really are encouraged to look these things up. Like I said, again, it's not like they encourage you to learn about these things. They say them. They're supposed to be these bad things, and you're not supposed to do it. And that's about it. Because again, you're never gonna hear anybody make that claim unless it's some skinhead, some racist. But it's you're never gonna hear somebody be like, oh, all those missing children that go missing, that probably has to do with those people that keep getting found coming out of tunnels and shit. The tunnel networks in New York, and I mean it's there's a video of one of them coming out of a tunnel underneath a newspaper machine or behind a newspaper machine or whatnot, and the guy sees them coming out and he starts filming, and the Jay gets all mad and pushes him and runs away. It's fucking what? How does anybody and they go, oh well, they probably just built these tunnels during COVID because worship was not allowed, so they were secretly just trying to do their religious stuff, their religious worship. So it's noble. It's a good thing what they have these tunnels. But then you look at the tunnel systems, and they sure don't look new. They sure have a really old feel to them. Then there's the other one where the police are at a synagogue, I believe it is, and they're like arresting people as more and more people come out of the walls, and I mean literally coming out of the walls and shit. Let's see, you know.
Okay, ready? One more. 1, 2, and 3. Cute. Not so fast. The general's coming with you. Mom, you gave us a break on our car insurance, and he'll look after you too.
Yep, with flexible payment options for new drivers.
All right, here's the one.
This is a Hasidic Jew popping out of a tunnel beneath a historic Jewish synagogue in Brooklyn that was being used to illegally expand the church. After cement trucks came to fill up the hole, a riot broke out between the Jewish community and NYPD, leading many to speculate something more nefarious was going on. So I showed up to see what I could learn. Hey, is there any way we can go outside?
There's a bunch of guys in Chabad, which we would call like extreme right. They're mostly Israelis. I wanted to start the expansion in the sense that people are saying tunnels, Jews, human trafficking, like they uncovered dirt that was already. It's still a main road. I think everything there already exists. We're gonna go behind the back of the management because they were like, okay, they can't figure this shit out. Let's do it ourselves. This was discovered like a few weeks ago. The management found out about it. Yesterday, a cement truck arrived around the corner and they were gonna fill it up with cement. A group of Chabad people. First of all, they busted the pipes over there. Then they came in here from the inside and they started breaking the wall. Sledgehammer. The point is, there's no human traffic going on.
Oh, that's the point. Oh, so how does that prove that that's no human trafficking? Oh, they were just trying to illegally expand the church. That's all. Do you get this shit?
This is the Hasidic.
When my hair started thinning, I was ignoring it because I was a full-time working mother. Then I came across Nutrafol. Now my hair is thicker and stronger, and I finally feel like myself again.
All right, sorry. Just distracted by comments. I mean, these tunnels, it's like, are we to believe that these Hasidiotics are just these really capable tunnel builders? Is that what we're supposed to believe? Because I don't know about you, but if you've ever had any experience with them, they're not the most handy and you know, laborious people. They don't like to do very much. And the idea of the incredible labor efforts that would go into that, it just doesn't fit them. But you know, it's funny, that guy was talking about, oh, there's nothing nefarious going on. Then why did they flip out like they did? If there was nothing nefarious going on, why didn't they go, okay, you got us, we were just trying to expand the church, and it is. Why would they have flipped out and ran and hid, and what's going on? Not to mention, you know, the other tunnels with the dirty mattresses and all that other shit found. And why doesn't that stuff ever happen for anyone else? All right, so let's go. Blood libel or ritual murder libel is an anti to yourself ? That's a question? You're talking to yourself ? All right. Didn't you mean like exclamation point or even a period? Like you're telling me that, aren't you? You're not asking me if I'm talking to myself. You know what? If you want to read or you want to hear the the beginning of this, go check out yesterday's, because the police laughed my wife out the door. Did they? It's weird because they never took it yet, you dumbass. Why would you make up nonsense, as always? Right. But it just, the stupidity it takes to, they're so desperate. So we're talking about the people that, because, I'm wrong, right? I'm wrong. So this, who I consider to be a pedophile group, wastes money on whatever they bought and then another $15 to send it to me. Like, because I'm wrong, right? Because what I'm talking about makes me wrong. They're so mad at me for doing these live feeds that they waste their money on me. I didn't go live the first time. This is the first time. So you're there. Don't worry. But now they're texting again. So they're willing to make fake profiles to come on here to talk shit. They're willing to text me. They're willing to send me packages. They're willing to do all these things. But are they willing to make a video showing that they're real people and not Israeli bots, not Team Jorge? No. That's crossing the line. They won't show their true identities. Gee, I wonder why. If they're not pedos, then what are they worried about? Why would you hide your identity? Why would you be proud, like I am, of what you're saying? You're right, because I know I'm right. So I'm proud to be, and I'm proud of my anti-Semitism. I'm proud of my anti-pedophilia. I'm proud to be this person, and I want you guys to see who's saying it. Who doesn't want to be seen talking shit to me? Seriously, this is how upset they are. They definitely don't want me reading about blood libel, I guess, because they're desperately trying to distract. And let's see what the next text messages are, because they're texting me. They're clearly watching me, but instead of speaking on here, they're texting me. Because I'm wrong, right? Right? This is what you guys, I guess, have to tell yourself. You either see this for what it is or you don't. But it's not like I can force you to. I don't know what else. I would love to hear other options. If you think it's something else, I would love to hear what you think it is. Especially since it's been going on for 10 years. Would you say 10 years? 2015. Yeah, more started in 16. Yeah. So 9 years.
It was before you got hurt.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
No, it wasn't. No. My feed was nothing before. And there wasn't a feed. You couldn't go live yet. Right? You couldn't go live until after I got hurt. But this is all this effort for the guy that's wrong. The guy that's like, man, we should kill pedos and eliminate this J menace. Right? Oh. Now you're saying 2014, so you're, again, proud to be on the other side, I guess? Who does that? Fake profile, I'm sure, right? Make another GoFundMe and scam some more people, right? You would think I would, right? If I did it before and it worked out and we scammed a bunch of people out of money, how come I don't do it more often? If you guys want to show me the video of me saying, send me some money on the GoFundMe, I'd love to see it. They put effort to find your phone number and address, make it personal. What the fuck? Exactly. For me saying we should kill pedos and eliminate the J menace. Ask yourself, who could it possibly be that is not only this obsessed with me, but this dumb? Like, this just fucking, they're too stupid to realize what they do. It's if you open up the books on Israel, you demonize Israel stupidity. They actually think that's a powerful thing that they say. That's a good thing that they say. Don't open up the books on Israel. You're going to demonize Israel.
Not if they don't do anything wrong.
Well, that would be the key.
Validate their innocence.
Right. You would, if you were the right person, if you were on the right side, if you were the truth, you would welcome the the exploration, the invasion, if you will. Go ahead, look at anything you can find. I dare you to find something bad. And then this idea of this GoFundMe. The GoFundMe that we thought we needed when we thought our kid's heart was bad and we were going to need to be able to pay for a lot because the doctor told us that. And once we found out that it wasn't something to worry about, it just so happened that a friend of ours' house burnt down and they were desperate. So we switched the GoFundMe to, came out, said everything is good with the kid, blah, blah, blah. We're going to switch to GoFundMe to help out this woman whose heart is, or whose house is burnt down. And I think we ended up getting her like $400. But yeah, I didn't see a dime from it.
Is that Holly's house or?
Mm-hmm. Can't believe you remember that. Yeah. Why would someone stalk a delusional person? Exactly. That's a great question. Why would someone stalk someone who's just delusional and lying and crazy and wrong? Why? What would be the benefit? Why would somebody watch somebody for fucking 11 years now? Admittedly, watching me for 11 years now, if I'm delusional and wrong and crazy, who is going to do that? Who thinks, no, you're wrong. We shouldn't give, we should be giving Israel all of our tax dollars, $3.8 billion. Absolutely should. But see, Curtis is the type of dumbass, and that he thought that was a good comment. He's like, oh, I'll get him with that. Who will stalk a delusional person? Not realizing he just admitted that he's been stalking me since 2014. With a fake profile one way or another. And if I'm delusional and I'm crazy and I'm wrong and I'm all this, why would you do it? You're so right on. I can't even, Matt sees it. But you are delusional. See, look at how stupid these Jays are. Like he's doubling down, but you are delusional. Yup. Yeah. So why would you stalk me? Do you not understand this? Like, are you really this dumb? Yes, you're a dumb Jay. That's, I don't think you can be intelligent and rape children. I don't think those two things go together. Because you know what you're doing, you know how wrong it is. You wouldn't do it. So these pedophiles, these J pedos, are too stupid to understand. Like, this dude is seriously doubling down on the stupidity, proving the point. Another thing, if I was so good at defrauding people through GoFundMe, why wouldn't I be doing it more often? Don't you think that would work out well? Like, I don't understand. If instead of giving everything away, here's the website, go check it out, go get it for free, blah, 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 blah. Why would I do all that? I'm delusional and I'm wrong. That's why people stalk me. That's why people send me packages. That's why people text me. That's why people do all these crazy things. That's why people won't make a video proving that they're real. It all makes total sense, doesn't it? And it just happens to be that I'm the guy that talks about the Jays more than anything. The Jays and pedos and killing pedos. Remember, I'm obsessed with killing pedos. Well, I'm obsessed with those, according to them. I always have to remind them it's killing pedos. But again, people only say what they want to say or answer what they want to hear. That's unacceptable, and you don't need to be doing that. They need to be doing that. Anyway, let's go back. Because apparently they really don't want us doing this. So medieval context, because we did the possible precursors yesterday. Oh, here we go. The dumb girl's gonna be here. I'm not even reading what the dumb girl has to say. You just know it's dumb. she's just going to prove the point even more. The blood libels emerged at a time when the church and particularly the Crusades were driving increasingly anti Judaic discourses. They were later reinforced through the church. I got to stop again. Again, just put it together. Why would it only apply to this group if this group was innocent? Why wouldn't this be a common thing thrown around at people if this was just an insult? Can you hand me a napkin, please? And it's the same thing here. Why would, if I was wrong, why would all this effort be put into me? You know, there's really something to it when you, it's not like they're going to come out and acknowledge it, right? They're not going to be like, yeah, we do this thing, blah, blah, blah. They're going to you know, deny it, tell you not to say it, this, that, and the other. Well, they're not going to deny. They're going to tell you not to say it. They're going to, it's basically just crying about people pointing it out. But they're not going to be able to successfully deny it. They're not going to be able to just explain it away and stuff. And it's the same thing here. You're never going to see these clowns address why they're here. If I'm wrong, why would they be here? And they'll say things like, oh, this is just entertainment. This is just entertainment. Again, acknowledging the fact that they could be doing anything else. They could be watching anything else. Multi-million-dollar budget movies, with the famous stars, famous actors, actresses. They could be watching any big old podcast, any Joe Rogans, any, the Logan Paul show, whatever. They could be doing anything else. They could be outside. They could be cleaning, cooking. They could be doing anything else in the world, and none of that is more entertaining than me. Just look at how desperate. If I was wrong, why would they be so desperate? Why don't they just debunk? Who is going to do this? If this dumb girl wasn't actually some big fat trailer trash, she would have no problem making a video denouncing me, talking about what a piece of shit I am, proving that she's real. But she won't. None of them do. Why not? It's because I'm wrong, right? That's how that works. Alpha doesn't critically. It's dumb girl. Doesn't understand what evidence means. The evidence that she's wrong is that you are targeted. So you must be special to someone. No, they understand it. That's why they keep focusing on it, right? They're trying to like, if anybody's on the fence here, if there's new people here and they're on the fence and they're like, hey, this is starting to make sense, but I don't know. They're going to provide a way out for people who don't want to think this way. They're going to provide the I'm crazy way out. So she's proving that she can, whatever I'm saying. But instead of addressing certain parts, which are the obvious parts, she keeps making up dumb nonsense. The whole GoFundMe thing is well documented. Like, you could easily find all the information you want about it. Again, I think it only raised like $400, and that went to a different person altogether. So, like, but let's just say it was true. Let's just say I came up with some crazy scheme to scam $400 out of people 10 years ago. If that's the best you can come up with, if you can't come up with anything else in the last 10 years that I've done, that's pretty telling. That you would have to go back to such a desperate, dumbass thing. And it was actually a really scary, sad time. Like, we thought our kid had a heart problem. That was fucked up, man. We didn't want that. But instead of, Instead of continuing the thing and continuing to do it, we stopped it, and all that shit. Like, what a crazy, desperate example of me being right. I don't know how else to put it. Like, again, they're not gonna, like, the Israelis aren't gonna come out and talk about, yeah, we do the blood libel every year, and that's where all the missing children go, and all this other. They're not gonna come out and say these things. You have to look at how they respond. They're not going to come out here and be like, yeah, guy's right about all kinds of stuff, and we're just really worried about it, so we try to make him look crazy. We try to shoot the messenger. You have to look at the stuff. Especially when you think about, like, how many other people you watch and how you like this anywhere else. Never. Nobody else gets it like this. Just think about it. I mean, it's easy. It's easy to figure out. All right. These were later enforced through the Church Council, Lateran Fourth, which mandated the segregation of Christians in J society and built an apparatus of enforcement across Europe. And this is all just so silly to me. When we start talking about all these stories, I try to think of the logistics behind all of it and what I think these time frames look like in my head. Like, what I'm supposed to think. These nothing people with horses and that were still able to build amazing castles and churches and shit somehow. And apparently large schools, because a lot of the old universities, the prestigious British universities and shit, they've been around since the same time. But all this shit's just crazy. Next, many of the English examples may have included an element of church competition for saintly cults with the income that veneration produced. Israel Yuval proposed that the blood libel may have originated in the 12th century due to Christian views on Jay behavior during the First Crusade. Some Jays committed unaliving and killed their own children rather than exposing them to forced conversion to Christianity. Think about that, right? Think about that. Now I'm getting texts again begging me to open the package. Open the package, please. We spent all this money to give it to you, please. Any money to get it to you because you're wrong. And they desperately want me to stop talking about it. Interesting to think about it, like, they write this shit. So they think it makes them sound good or noble to think that they killed their children and themselves to avoid pretending to be a Christian. Are you a Christian? Yeah, sure. Yeah, okay, whatever. Okay, cool. You can go out your business. No, I'm not. I'm not going to be. Like, this is if you open up the books in Israel, you demonize Israel's stupidity. If somebody is threatening to kill you, if you don't that you believe in Jesus or you believe in Allah or whatever it may be, and all you have to do is say it and then go about your business, do that. You can worship whatever you want behind closed doors. Think about how difficult it would have been, especially back in the 12th century, the 1100s. When you think about, like, how would the church, what drones were they using to spy on people? What camera networks did they have? You're way out in the countryside, living your own little life, and somebody's going to tell on you. He was worshiping on Saturday. We saw it. He wasn't eating pork. I saw him not eating pork. Then you begged for 10K. I begged. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see these videos. Wear gloves. I'm not opening up anything, dude. I'm taking it to the police. Why would I not just take it to the police? Who gives a fuck? I don't give a shit. I'd rather throw it away than anything else. It could be fucking just let it, I'd rather them waste their money than anything else. Move to Gaza. I should move to Gaza. Yeah, I should move to Gaza. Look at how desperate these comments are. Why would there be this many desperate comments if I was... I mean, I'm actually reading the information they want read. So why would that be an issue? If what I'm reading is true, they should be like, yeah, sit back. He's going to learn today. He's going to figure it out. He's wrong about this. Why wouldn't they do that? Why would they be so desperate to not only get my attention, but get my attention off of what I'm doing? That's what it comes from. Did you hear? Because the Jays were killing their own children and killing themselves to avoid forced conversion. Christians just figured if Jays were capable of killing their own, then of course they're going to kill Christian children. That's where the blood libel came from. That makes so much sense, doesn't it? That's why this label has followed these people forever. The idea of kidnapping and draining the blood of Christian children to perform rituals with it. Because,
I thought that was Satanists.
they killed their own children to avoid forced coercion. Conversion. That makes so much sense. I can't believe I didn't think about this a long time ago. See, this is why they keep trying to get me, prevent me and distract me from reading this to you. You would have to be a really, really stupid person to believe this. This is the best they could come up with. Understand, if they had a better explanation, they would use it. They wouldn't have just picked this random Israel Yuval guy or girl, whatever. They wouldn't just pick this random... Well, let's just say this. We have better arguments, but let's say this. It just may have appeared because they were like, yeah, they're so noble for killing their own to avoid forced coercion that, yeah, they let's just say that they drain the blood of our children to eat and perform ritual with. That is fucking insane. But this is how this works. Origins in England. In England, in 1144, the Jays of Norwich were falsely accused of ritual murder. Again, funny how they just keep getting accused of the same, not even like different ritual things. They just keep getting accused of the same ritual murder by people who probably didn't have much contact with each other. I mean, again, we're talking about the 1144s. It wasn't like long distance. Oh, wait. How'd they do it, Ange? How'd they communicate? With the pigeons. It was the pigeons. After a boy, I would imagine had 1,000 people, that there would only be one William, and it was a boy. How did they even regulate that? What are you going to name your son? He'll be John. We already have a John of Norwich. You're going to have to pick something else. Like, that's fucking stupid. That's how you know these stories are all manufactured. But even their manufactured stories paint them as fucking terrible. Was found dead in the woods with stab wounds. No, not just stab wounds. He was found dead with multiple holes in his body and his blood was drained. They weren't like large stab wounds. They were little tiny pinprick holes. William's hagiographer, never heard that word before, Thomas of Monmouth, falsely claimed that every year there is an international council of Jays at which they choose the country in which a child will be killed during Easter because of a Jay prophecy that states that the killing of a Christian child each year will ensure that the Jays will be restored to the Holy Land. According to Monmouth, is that a real prophecy? Is there a citation for that prophecy, or are they just going to skip over that? Because they're not saying like falsely said that there was this prophecy. So I don't know. According to Monmouth, England was chosen in 1144, and the leaders of the Jay community delegated the Jays of Norwich to perform the killing, after which they abducted and crucified William. The legend was turned into a cult, with William acquiring the status of a martyr and pilgrims bringing offerings to the one thing. I think that this made up story just took off like that. There was no reasoning for it. Nobody understood. Like, this wasn't like a common thing. It's just this guy just made up this whole idea, and all these people were just willing to do it. Yeah, let's do that. This was followed by similar accusations in Gloucester in 1168, Burnsbury Street or St. Edmunds in 1181, and Bristol in 1183. In 1189, that's a lot of similar accusations in a 15-year time span. That's a lot. For something to not be true, that's a lot. You, Eisenberg, you. In 1189, the J deputation attended the coronation of Richard the Lionheart and was attacked by the crowd. Massacres of Jays at London and York soon followed. In 1190, on March 16th, 150 Jays were attacked in York and then massacred when they took refuge in the royal castle where Clifford's Tower now stands, with some unaliving rather than being taken by the mob. See, again, that same narrative always seems to... They are so noble. How did they take refuge in this royal place? Like, how did they have the keys? The remains of 17 bodies thrown in a well in Norwich between 12th and 13th century. 5 were shown by DNA testing to be likely members of a single Jay family, were very possibly killed as part of one of these pogroms. So you throw a bunch of bodies in a well, and 1,000 years later, we can get those bodies out and DNA test them. That is amazing. We are amazing at what we are capable of doing. After the death of little St. Hugh of Lincoln, there were trials and executions of Jays. The case was described by Matthew Paris and later Chaucer, the former and formed the basis of the Sir Hugh ballads, which have circulated to the present day. Its notoriety sprang from the intervention of the crown. The first time... Oh, it's even funnier that I'm afraid they're going to keep texting me that. What am I afraid to open it for? I don't care to open it. Why would I care to open your package? Why are you so desperate to try to get me to stop talking about this stuff? Especially if I'm just an American. I'm an American boy. If you're an American who's just trying to do the right thing what is your motivation here? You don't want to know about this shit? You don't want to be educated about things? It's weird. You know, you claim to want the evidence for what I'm saying, but then when I provide evidence, you don't seem to want it. Yet when I ask you for evidence as to what you're doing, you don't like that. Isn't that weird? Guess I must be wrong and crazy. Intervention of the crown. The first time an accusation of ritual killing had been given royal credibility. They must have just did that because, again, like me, they were just like, fuck it, we're wrong, like, who cares, you know. It's just so stupid. It's just, you know, why would it be given royal credibility and then put their shit on the line for this if it's not true? You know, why is there, if something isn't true, why is there attention to it? Think about all of the millions and millions of people that are probably live right now in one shape or form, right? One way or another, they're live. And instead of being on any of those feeds, they're here, mad because I'm talking about these things. Isn't that strange? At the very least, isn't it strange what you're witnessing? You never witness it in any other capacity, I guarantee it. You'll never see this on any other truther feed, so what's going on? Like, it's even funnier that these stupid asses don't realize what they're saying. This person started off texting me a few minutes into my feed, ha ha ha, the police left your wife out of blah 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 blah. Like, did they? Did they? Because it's like, if you start off with some desperate lie, then you lose all credibility. You know, there's just no credibility. If you're willing to say whatever you can to get attention, then we know that nothing you say has any sort of truth to it. You're just willing to say whatever. Everything they do just keeps proving the point. I don't know how else anybody can see it. The 8-year-old Hugh disappeared at Lincoln on July 31st, 1255. His body was probably discovered on August 29th in a well. A Jay named Copin, C-O-P-I-N, or K-O-P-P-I-N, because for some reason they always have multiple names and multiple spellings. Isn't that weird? Confessed to the involvement. He confessed to John of Lexington, a servant of the crown and relative of the Bishop of Lincoln. He confessed that the boy had been crucified by the Jays, who had assembled at Lincoln for that purpose. King Henry III, who had reached Lincoln at the beginning of October, had Copin executed and 91 of the Jays of Lincoln seized and sent up to London, where 18 of them were executed. The rest were pardoned at the intersection of the Franciscans or Dominicans. Not really sure. Within a few decades, Jays would be expelled from all of Europe. Yup, I am reading BS conspiracy stuff all day long. Yup. Goddamn Wikipedia and its BS conspiracy stuff. This is how desperately stupid they are. Like, this is the history. I don't know what else, you know, what a better source of like sort of layman history could be. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be looking at, but Wikipedia is the acceptable version. If you were to write a book report, you know, if you were a kid in school writing a book report, you could quote Wikipedia as being a reasonable source. And if there's a different source, then I'd love to see it, but this is the best they can do. Try to shoot the messenger because they don't want to address the message. This shit was confessed to. This is about as provable as a historical narrative gets, you know. Who knows how much any of it's true, which I don't think any of it is, but as far as the historical narrative goes, this is as true as it gets. And of course, there's all these random Christians or atheists or Muslims or whatever who are just mad at me for saying these things and desperately trying to stop me because, you know, that just makes sense, doesn't it? For hours. They'll be here as long as I am. It's a good reason why the comments being shut off it was a good thing. I'm so distracted by the stupidity sometimes, and I shouldn't be, but I'm is. I just love this shit, man. I love that the desperation it takes to now the source, because before it was that I didn't show my sources, but now source isn't good enough. So please, if there's a different source to read about these same sort of things, I'd love to hear it. Especially when you consider like who runs Wikipedia. You know, this is their narrative. It's just like Hollywoodism. Go watch Hollywoodism. Hollywoodism is their video, their movie. They made it. You can't hide behind, oh, it's just conspiracy theory. They made it. I think it's fascinating. I think it's really funny and really telling that again, like I don't know what else to do as far as, you know, like I stopped using YouTube because I didn't want to give that example. Then it's, you know, I'm watching the news, but the news isn't good enough. And now it's reading the news, and reading the news isn't good enough. And now it's reading the historical account according to the most the most J coddling website I can think of. Well, not the most, because it could be like I don't even know what else to look at. I would have to find like specific J this or that. I don't even know. Where do you think I would find? Where should I be looking? Because this is where everybody's going to look. If anybody happens to look up this thing, not only will this be the first thing that Google tells them to look at, but this is, you know, all the rest of the stuff won't have the credibility that Wikipedia will have. So I don't even know where else to go, what else to do. And I know it seems to really bother them. So if it really bothers them, I should probably keep doing it. Can you imagine how desperate and like hopeless and stupid they feel? You know, they just have to interfere. That's all they can do. You know, they're so brainwashed that they're somehow superior, that they're so smart, that they have the positions they have, not because of nepotism and segregation, but because they're just so freaking smart. And yet, this is the best they can come up with. That now Wikipedia is wrong? Gotcha. You know, you would think if this was nothing, if this package was nothing, and us going to the cops with it would make us look foolish, you'd think they would encourage it, right? Why wouldn't they encourage? Yeah, go take it to them. Yeah, you're going to look like a stupid ass wasting their time, blah, 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 blah. You'd think that's what they would do. But again, I guess I'm just wrong here. Within a few decades, Jays would be expelled from all of England, and in 1290, or within a few decades, Jays would be expelled from all of England in 1290, and not allowed to return until 1657, although it is likely that some Jays lived there during this period and kept their religion a secret. I mean, it's so silly to think like, were people just walking around back then with like big crosses or big stars or something like that? Like, wouldn't that be the how would you know how people are, what their religion is? It's like saying that people knew when other people were circumcised or not. How would they do that? After the expulsion, Edward I renovated Little St. Hugh's shrine and decorated it with his royal insignia as part of his efforts to justify his actions. What? It wasn't because he was proud of what he did. Justify it. As Stacy, who's Stacy? Where the fuck is this Stacy person? Did I miss something? Where the fuck is this Stacy idea from? Okay, as Stacy notes, a more explicit identification of the crown with the ritual crucifixion charge can hardly be imagined. Identification of the crown with the ritual crucifixion can hardly be imagined. Okay. Simon of Trent, Blood Libel, illustration in Hartman Shadell's Weltchronic, 1493. So, yep, there it is. I don't want to show it because it's fucking disgusting.
High school, and we randomly ran into him on a case, and of course, he encouraged me.
Why would they? It just seems like so much effort went into a fake story here.
We actually leave tonight.
Strange. Much like the blood libel in England, oh, this is continental Europe. Much like the blood libel of England, the history of blood libel in continental Europe consists of unsubstantiated claims. Unsubstantiated claims. Unsubstantiated claims, huh? Because, you know, having the king certify it, having the guy, confess to it and all that, that's not substantiated enough. We needed pictures, damn it, and there were no pictures from the 1100s. If there are no pictures from the 1100s, like photographs, then it's just not true. There are lots of paintings. There are lots of depictions of the thing, and they're all basically the same one. But no. Unsubstantiated claims made about the corpses of Christian children. Well, when Christian children are found murdered, blood drained from them repeatedly, why wouldn't we think of it being some sort of connection? Isn't that how shit works? Also, wait. There were frequently associated supernatural events speculated about these discoveries in corpses, events which often attributed by contemporaries to miracles. That have to do anything. Also, just as in England, these accusations in continental Europe typically resulted in the execution of numerous Jays. Same fucking story. Same bullshit. These are the unsubstantiated claims. What are these executions? When are these executions? They just always say it like, oh, it's just there were tons of unsubstantiated claims, blah, 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 blah. Also, just as in England, sometimes even all or close to all Jays in one town. How did they survive? I just don't understand how, when you hear these narratives about how they were just so persecuted and ritualistically killed and slaughtered and massacred, and almost all of them in one town, and all of them in Europe, and well, where else were they? If they weren't in Europe, where were they? How did they seemingly still spread so much? Seems weird that they would be in such a position of power, yet they were ritualistically killed and massacred, basically up until the camera was invented. Once the camera is seemingly invented, then it all seems to stop and there's no proof. The accusations and their effects also in some cases led to royal interference on behalf of the Jays. Why would the royals interfere on behalf of the Jays? What would be the it just seems strange that they're not held accountable. That they'll be, found guilty, that connected to confessions of whatever it may be. And then when it comes down to, all right, let's do this, in a time where people were just killed all the time, then why would the royals step in all the time? Thomas of Monmouth's story of the annual Jay meeting to decide which local community would kill a Christian child also quickly spread to the continent. Strange. Again, what was the publishing process like back then? What was the distribution network like? How did all that work back then? I always question that and never get to find out. Karen, what's going on? We're talking about blood libel. We're learning about blood libel. We did it yesterday. We started with well poisoning, which, surprise, surprise, they're the only people that are continuously connected to and accused of well poisoning. They're the only people in the world. It doesn't exist anywhere else in any other culture, but this one group who has been continuously accused of poisoning drinking water systems since history. Since history. An early version appears in Bonum Universale del Epibius II, 29 double S 23, not sure what the fuck that means, by Thomas of Cantimpré, a monastery near Cambrai. Thomas wrote, in around 1260, it is quite certain that the Jays of every province annually decide by lot which other congregations. Canterbury also believed that since called out to Pontius Pilate and our children, Matthew 27:20, they have been afflicted with hemorrhage, a condition equated to male menstruation. This is what he said. A very learned Jay, who in our day has been converted to the Christian faith, informs us that one enjoying the reputation of a prophet among them, toward the close of his life, made the following prediction. Be assured that the relief of this secret ailment to which you are exposed can only be obtained through Christian blood. Solo sangue Christiano. This suggestion was followed by the ever-blind and impetuous Jays, who instituted the custom of annually shedding Christian blood in every province in order that they might recover from their malady. They sure did speak differently, right? Yo. Thomas added that the Jays had misunderstood the words of their prophet, who by his expression, solo sangue Christiano, had meant not the blood of any Christian, but that of Jesus. I love all of these super detailed accounts of what life was like in certain ways, certain systems, conversations even in the 1200s. But we somehow lost the telemetry data on how we went to the moon. All 6 times. Interesting, isn't it? The only true remedy for all physical and spiritual suffering. That's the blood of Jesus. Thomas did not mention the name of the very learned proselyte? I don't know. But it may have been Nicholas Donin of La Rochelle, who in 1240 had a disputation on the Talmud with Yekel of Paris, and who in 1242 caused the burning of numerous Talmudic script manuscripts in Paris. It is known that Thomas was personally acquainted with Nicholas Donin and another J convert, Theobald of Cambridge, are greatly credited with the adoption and belief of the blood libel myth in Europe. So these converts who were like, yeah, this shit is wrong and terrible and stupid, we need to do something about it, at least according to this narrative, because this narrative is just stupid. It's just stupid. They make it sound like there were like 20 people in each area at the time. That's how we know, this specific person may have thought this, or, it's just nuts. The first known case outside England was in Blois, France in 1171. So it was at the same time. It was actually earlier than the stuff I previously read, but at the exact same time as the first original story in England. But they've separated it and wrote it in this way to make it sound like it was afterward. This was the site of a blood libel accusation against the town's entire J community that led to around 31 to 33 J's, with 17 women making up this total, being burned to death on May 29th of that year, or 20th of Sivan of 4,931, because that's the year that the J calendar says it is. Sivan is, I think, one of their months. They were burned to death. The blood libel revolved around R. Isaac, a J, whom a Christian servant reported had deposited a murdered Christian in the lorry. The child's body was never found. The count had about 40 adult Blois Jays arrested, and they were eventually to be burned. The surviving members of the Blois J community, as well as surviving holy text, were ransomed. As a result of this case, the Jays garnered new promises from the king. The burned bodies of the sentenced Jays were supposedly maintained unblemished through the burning, a claim which is a well-known miracle. So, yeah. So they were burnt to death at the stake. But because their bodies remained unblemished, it's considered a well-known miracle. Makes sense. Martyr myth for both Jays and but this isn't an unsubstantiated claim. This is real. Israel has the right to defend itself, says some dumbass. Nobody else does, though, right? Nobody else has the right to defend themselves against, especially not the Palestinians, who prior to October 7th, which is a day when no Israelis were killed or taken hostage, it's all bullshit. The Israelis had already killed 273 Palestinians, innocent Palestinians, civilian Palestinians, by October 7th. They were saying it was set to be the deadliest year since 2006 for the Palestinians. So for them to defend themselves against the Israelis by using hang gliders, you honestly believe that bullshit? Why isn't there video in the most heavily surveilled area in the region? Why isn't there videos of all these hang gliders descending upon Israel and the terrorists coming out and attacking? What the fuck? They came down on hang gliders. How do you even get started? How do you do that? And then when they retreated, when they took off, they flew back with hang gliders. What did they just start running with them? Israel, the most heavily surveilled, heavily armed, all the tech, everything. For hours, these hang glider Hamas agent people were just able to go around and go to the music festival, and that the music festival wasn't stopped. Like, it's all just such bullshit. Gee, this is really strange. How is this happening? When they were given the choice to give up 56% of their land and said no, and then the subsequent Nakba that happened on May 15th, where they lost 86% of their land, that's not invasion. A thief does not have the right to defend himself while you're beating his ass inside your home. Are you just going to keep saying stupid things? I have no logic. Yep, I'm just making all of this up. Here we go. Back to me making stuff up again. Oh, Jesus. The body, blah, blah. There is significant primary source material for this case, including a letter revealing moves for J protection with King Louis VII. What? Recording responding to the mass execution, the the 20th of Sivan was declared a fast day by Rabbinu Tam. In this case, in Blois, there was not yet proclaimed that Jays needed the blood of Christians. This is just so stupid. This is just so stupid, poorly written bullshit. Oh, wait, we gotta, okay, well, what about the, okay, so we'll say this, but then we gotta say this to cover up for that. And, you know, in 1235, after the dead bodies of 5 boys were found on Christmas Day in Fulda, the inhabitants of a town claimed the Jays had killed them to consume their blood and burn 34 Jays to death with the help of crusaders assembled at the time. So, are we just gonna like go over the fact that 5 kids were dead? And they were probably found dead with holes in their bodies and their blood drained out. Like this is that part always gets left out of the story because it's just a story. You know, I keep talking about this from this perspective of if it's true, then why believe any of this shit's true? All just dumb story. This is all if you open the books on Israel and demonize Israel, kind of stupid story. Even though Emperor Frederick II cleared the Jays of any wrongdoings after an investigation, libel accusations persisted in Germany. At Pforzheim, Baden, in 1267, a woman supposedly sold a girl to Jays who, according to the myth, then cut her open and dumped her in the Enns River, where boatmen found her. The girl cried for vengeance and then died. So what part of that isn't true, or like? It's also stupid. The body was said to have bled as the Jays were brought to it. The body was said to have bled as the Jays were brought to it. The woman and the Jays allegedly confessed and were subsequently killed, but that's unsubstantiated. That a judicial execution was summary committed in consequence of the accusation is evident of the manner in which the Nuremberg Monobruch and the Synagogue poems refer to the incident. In 1270, I mean, think about how many of these stories exist from such a short period of time. At Weissenberg of Alais, a supposed miracle alone decided the charge against the Jays. A child's body had shown up in the Lauder River. It was claimed that the Jays had cut into the child to acquire his blood and that the child continued bleeding for 5 days. At Oberwessel, near Easter on 1287, alleged miracles again constituted the only evidence against the Jays. In this case, it was claimed that the corpse of the 16-year-old Werner of Oberwessel, also referred to as Good Werner, landed at Barachach, and the body performed miracles, particularly medicinal miracles. Light was also said to have been emitted by the body. Reportedly, the child was hung upside down, forced to throw up the host, and was cut open. Okay, throw up the host. In consequence, the Jays of Oberwasel and many other adjacent localities were severely persecuted during the years 1286 to 1289. You know, in the big, giant church courtrooms they had where, people would ride up on their horses and park their horses, and then they'd go into the church, and It's one of those big marble buildings and all that, right? The Jays of Oberwasser were particularly targeted because there were no Jays remaining in Barach following the 1283 pogrom. Additionally, there were pogroms following the case as well at and around Oberwasser. Rudolf of Hausberg, to whom the Jays had appealed for protection in order to manage the miracle story, had the Archbishop of Mainz declare great wrong had been done to the Jay. This apparent declaration was very limited in effectiveness. A statement was made in the Chronicle of Conrad Justinger in 1423 that at Bern in 1293 or 1294, the Jays tortured and murdered a boy called Rudolph, sometimes referred to as Ruff or Ralph. The boy was reportedly found by the house of Jolly, a Jay. The Jay community was then implicated. The penalties imposed upon the Jays included torture, execution, expulsion, and steep financial fines. Justinger argued Jays were out to harm Christianity. The historical impossibility of this widely credited story was demonstrated by Jakob Stammler, pastor of Bern, in 1888. Oh, yeah, then. Okay, then. It's wildly impossible. There have been several explanations put forth as to why these blood libel accusations were made and perpetuated. Because they thought if they could kill their own to avoid forced conversion, then they could kill Christian children. For example, it has been argued Thomas of Monmouth's account and other similar false accusations, as well as their perpetuation, largely had to do with the economic and political interest of leaders perpetuating these myths. That's not a thing. Oh, it had to do with the leaders wanting more money. The use of blood and other human products for medicinal and magical purposes was also an established concept in medieval Europe. As such, illegal ways of accessing these items were ascribed in 1507 by Franciscans to Dominicans, by others to sorcerers in the Renaissance and Baroque period. From 18th century etchings. Murder body of Simon.
25,000? I've never seen him with anything more than $25.
Ew.
Right. Do you know someone named Randall Peters?
Ew. Not gonna show this. Simon of Trent, age 2, disappeared in 1475, and his father alleged that he'd been kidnapped and murdered by the local Jay community. 15 local Jays were sentenced to death and burned. Simon was regarded locally as a saint, although he was never canonized by the Church of Rome. He was removed from the Roman martyrology in 1965 by Pope Paul VI. Get that kid out of there. We can't have that kid as a martyr. What are you talking about?
I feel so dumb for not asking him more questions. We have Tom's cell phone and we need to get in. What was the password?
Christopher of Toledo, also known as Christopher of LaGuardia, or the Holy Child of LaGuardia, was a 4-year-old Christian boy supposedly murdered in 1490 by 2 Jays and 3 conversos, converts to Christianity. In total, 8 men were executed. It is now believed that this was constructed by the Spanish Inquisition to facilitate the expulsion of Jays from Spain. It's always something. Always something, isn't it? Just victims. You know, they had the right to defend themselves. They had the right to defend themselves. In a case at Tranu, Nagazambak, Ternavis possibility. Who do you think wrote this historical account instead of just for it? The absurdity, even the impossibility of the statements forced by torture from women and children shows that the accused preferred death as a means of escape from torture and admitted everything that was asked of them. They even said that J men menstruated and that the latter therefore practiced the drinking of Christian blood as a remedy. They were torturing women and children. At Bosing, Brazen, today Pesniak, Slovakia, it was charged that a 9-year-old boy had been bled to death, suffering cruel torture. 30 J's confessed to the crime and were publicly burned. The true facts of the case were later disclosed when the child was found alive in Vienna. He had been taken there by the accuser, Count Wolf of Brazen, as a means of ridding himself of his J creditors at Brazen. You know, because they had the money. Like everything they say, it just tells you something if you look. You know, these are manufactured stories, but they just can't help it. They think they're saying something right, but they're not. So they confess to the crime. 30 of them confess to Count Wolf. So he owes his J creditors a bunch of money. That makes sense. In Rhin, near Innsbruck, a boy named Andreas Oxner, also known as Anderl von Rhin, was said to have been bought by J merchants and cruelly murdered by them in a forest near the city, his blood being carefully collected in vessels. The accusation of drawing off the blood without murder was not made until the beginning of the 17th century when the cult was founded. The older inscription in the church of Rhin, dating from 1575, is distorted by fabulous embellishments. For example, that the money paid for the boy to his godfather turned into leaves and that a lily blossomed upon his grave. The cult continued until officially prohibited in 1994 by the Bishop of Innsbruck. It's Innsbruck. On January 17th, 1620, love that my feed keeps getting fucked with, probably going to die here again. Raphael Levy, a member of the J community of Meats, was executed on charges of ritual murder, the ritual murder of a peasant child who had gone missing in the woods outside the village of Glattengy on September 25th, 1669, the eve of Rosh Hashanah. Well, that one doesn't have any excuse. That's just a story, I guess. Sandomierz, in a city in Poland, had been the venue of a number of blood libel cases, leading to the torture and execution of several people. One such case from 1698 involved Malgorzata, a dead 2-year-old Christian girl whose corpse was deposited in a church mortuary by her mother, and the J she accused under torture, Alexander Barak. Both the mother and Barak were executed. Other cases are known from earlier dates. We're just going to skip over those. And in 1710, this is a later date, another one followed. The body of a boy, Jerzy Krasnowski, was found. A local rabbi was accused of killing him, with the rabbi, along with several other Jays, died in prison during the proceedings, and 3 more Jays were sentenced and executed. I mean, it seems pretty credible to me. 19th century. I mean, this is a lot of fucking stories, don't you think? This is kind of crazy. One of the child saints in the Russian Orthodox Church is a 6-year-old boy Gavril Belostovsky from the village of Zerviki. According to the legend supported by the church, the boy was kidnapped from his home during the holiday of Passover while his parents were away. Shutku, who was a Jay from Bialstok, was accused of bringing the boy to Bialstok, piercing him with sharp objects and draining his blood for 9 days, then bringing the body back to Zvirki, and dumping it at a local field. A cult developed, and the boy was canonized in 1820. His relics are still the object of 1997. The Belarusian state TV showed a film alleging the story is true. A revival of the cult in Belarus was as a dangerous expression of anti-Semitism in international reports on human rights and religious freedoms, which were passed in the UNHCR. Do you not see, like, there's no denying of it? They're just saying, hey, when you start talking about this, that doesn't follow the rules we set forth. We demand policy and predisposition favorable to us. That's what Semitism means. Policy and predisposition favorable to the Jays. So when we start talking about things they don't want talked about, that is anti-Semitism, and you should be proud of it. Now we're just going to give a list. 1823 to 1835, Velith, blood libel, after a Christian child was found murdered outside of his small Russian town in 1823. Accusations by a drunk prostitute. Everybody believes those drunk prostitutes led to the imprisonment of many local Jays. Some were not released until 1835. I bet during the time they were gone, there were no murdered Christians found with little holes in their body and their blood drained. In 1840, the 1840 Damascus affair. In February at Damascus, February, I know you like saying February. At Damascus, a Catholic monk named Father Thomas and his servant disappeared. The accusation of ritual murder was brought against members of the J community of Damascus. That's the end. They're not going to be like, which was then found to be untrue, because they don't have that. Under the Ottoman Empire, were accused of murdering a Greek Christian boy. Hang on. All right. Several Jays were arrested. Oh, wait. Christian boy. The libel was supported by the local governor and the European councils posted to Rhodes. Several Jays were arrested and tortured, and the entire Jay quarter was blockaded for 12 days. An investigation carried out by the Central Ottoman government found the Jays to be innocent. Oh, well, at least we have that story now. Head rabbi of Paris was a convert to Christianity, and a convert to Christianity wrote in his book, who cares, that a Catholic priest in Damascus had been ritually killed and the murder covered up by powerful Jays in Europe, referring to the 1840 Damascus affair. Yeah, I noticed that shit too. Man, this is just nuts. All this is just nuts. In 1851, 1853, a case of blood libel took place in Surami, Georgia, then part of the Russian Empire. 7 J men, all versed in religious matters, were falsely accused of the murder of a Christian Georgian boy for ritual purposes. Local investigators pressed the case for 3 years before the governing state in St. Petersburg, the Russian Empire's highest judicial organ, convicted and exiled the accused to remote provinces. I love how people talk about being exiled. Like Napoleon was exiled, but when you look at where he was exiled to, it's like this fucking beautiful mansion. And you have to ask, like, who staffed that mansion? Who, how did all that work? How did they keep the mansion temperature at a comfortable level? Who fed all those people? Who paid for all of that had to do with the mansion that Napoleon was in, or any of these exiled people that you always hear about?
Um, can you read this and give me the phone for it, please?
No. I'm just gonna get out of here. You guys have yourself a great day. I'm gonna
Well,
come
because I was
back.
going to add to that based on what I've
Oh,
been
okay.
watching. 'Cause
Go ahead.
it was an interesting. Okay, it starts with I know. So I've been
So
watching.
am I supposed to read this one and then yours, or just yours?
Just mine. The other one was mine too, but it's just my response to yeah. Anyways, and the thing that I found quite interesting was I've been watching Game of Thrones, and it's all medieval, and they talk about money and the funds needed to keep the war efforts going, and the villages fed and blah blah blah, and they got to the point where it comes out that money is borrowed from what they call the Iron Bank. And, this is, again, way before there was supposedly any technologies, any electricity, any of that shit. Um, but there is this idea of the Iron Bank. And, the lords or village representatives get sent to this place.
A lot of times back then they were called the court Jew. That's just what they were called.
Well, that's not been mentioned at all, but they go and sit before these individuals that are charged with taking care of and running the Iron Bank, and ask them for loans. And that just really brought a lot of questions into my mind when that whole concept was introduced. And I understand it's a movie, but let's face it, a lot of the ideas that they get for movies are loosely based on truths. So this Iron Bank idea, of course, is loosely based on the reality that we know. Um, but like I said, it really posed a lot of questions for me. It's like, okay, so this idea of this bank, so how did this bank start? And how did they get the word out to the different continents that this is a service that they were providing? How did they come up with the money to begin with to be able to start lending it out to the different kingdoms? And
Well, and each kingdom's money isn't worth the same, so they sort of decided.
well, no, back then it was gold or silver.
No, but
And
the denominations, like I'm saying, that the court Jew was the money changer. That's what they called him as well. And a lot of times they were associated with whatever ruler existed at the time. And if that ruler died, then supposedly they were killed. But when you would come into the town, whatever money you had would be worthless. You had to change it over through the money changer, and they would give you the money that belonged to this kingdom, or you couldn't just use the money that had a different face on it in this and that kingdom. If that's not the same in Game of Thrones, then it just shows you that it's an embellishment. But that's what history says. Sorry.
they kind of allude to that. They'll make mention of, oh, where is that coin from? But in the end, the gold is the gold and the silver is the silver. Now, the different villages may take gold that they pillaged from a band of whatever men, that they slaughtered and robbed or whatever. And at that point, they just, you know, melt it down and reform it to however they'd like to reform it. Um, but yeah, that whole when they brought in the idea of the Iron Bank, and then I've never seen it before, so I just recently watching it. Um, and I just got through the episode where they actually went to the Iron Bank and asked for money and were turned down. you know, uh, and I was like, really? They just went and applied for a loan and they got denied, and this is back before like anything else. I just again, how did this bank start? Who started it? How'd they tell everybody, hey, we're the bank? You got to come to us. Get on ships. Send a raven. Do whatever you got to do to get the message to us that you want money. It's just crazy.
What is it, man? He's looking at me like, what did you just do?
Anyway, what you were already talking about is
I would record yourself reading it and send it to her because she's not going to read the whole thing.
oh, she will.
If can she? That's the question. Okay. Well, I think it's all really good. I don't think you're going to get what you want out of it, and I hope you're okay with that.
Knowing I said it, I think is
Like I said, it's all good. If you think it, if it should work. Logically, it should work. That's the issue. I think the comments have been shut down again. Go figure. Okay. But yeah, that whole money changer thing is a really interesting aspect of the narrative we're given and how they've always controlled the money. And when you know, it's like it's supposedly some sort of anti-Semitism, some sort of negative thing to say the Jays control the money. When you think like 0.183% of the population controls the money, that's actually really impressive. That should be something you should be proud of. But you're not supposed to say it. It's supposedly some sort of anti-Semitic trope, right? But if the Rothschild Bank controls, like, has all but like 3 countries in the world's banking systems, and the Rothschilds are Jays, then how is it a false statement saying the Jays control the money? The only reason you'd say it's bad is because you didn't want people to know the truth, which, you know, the truth means if they control the money, they could make things better. And things are as bad as they are because those who control it want it to be that way. That's what the acknowledgement of the power leads to. So that's why they make it such a negative thing for you to acknowledge the truth. You know, and again, it's a truth that in all other situations you'd think they people would be proud of. Yes, we control, like how they did in Hollywoodism, where they proudly express that they control Hollywood. They always have. They always will. Like, you'd think that would be the case. Why wouldn't they want us to know if it wasn't nefarious? If what you're doing is positive, then you don't hide, you don't make fake profiles, you don't do all that kind of stupid shit. You know? If I was the wrong one and all of these trolls were right, me saying make the video where you trash me and we can see that you're a real person, we can see what your fat ass looks like, dumb girl. We can see all the little nuances that you love to complain about. Prove that you're a real person and I'll take you seriously. Until that point, you're just proving my point. You know, you're just proving it's all either, you know, bots, Israeli bots, or dumb Jays behind fake profiles. All of which are pedos. I don't know how the bots are pedos, but let's see. Soviet, Israeli, and Georgian scholars agree that the Russian imperial state, especially Viceroy Mikhail Voronostov, was heavily involved, even manipulated the case to ensure a conviction. The conviction greatly influences the Katsui case, 1878 to 1880. This is where shortly thereafter all of these things start happening is when anti-Semitism is first coined. I wonder if it has to do with them consistently getting out of these accusations. In the Lombardo-Venetian kingdom in Badia, the province of Reviggio, I don't know, on June 25th, 1855, a 21-year-old peasant woman from Massai, Giudette Castiglio, I don't know, returned after 8 days missing and claimed she had escaped from a ritual murder. She showed wounds on her arms as evidence of bloodletting, giving evidence to her story of blood libel. She testified that a fellow townsman, Kaliman Ravenna, was one of the parties responsible. Ravenna was a wealthy merchant, entrepreneur, district tax collector, moneylender, clothes maker, hairdresser, architect, dog groomer, and member of the elite of Badia. He was taken into custody on a charge of public violence, and rumors concerning the matter spread throughout the region. The case was moved to the court of Roviggio. There, the magistrate and other criminal authorities rapidly reviewed the case and immediately arrested the alleged perpetrator. I mean, it's 1855. What, I guarantee if we were to go look at the court of Reviggio, it's probably one of these fucking magnificent buildings that you would assume would be dark on the inside, but they did all this by lamplight. There, the magistrate. Oh, on June 9th, Giudetta Castiglio was arrested for a theft in Naggio that took place during the days she had been reportedly missing. This contradicted her testimony, and Kaliman Ravenna was released on July 14th and welcomed back to his community. Castiglio was charged with slander, a more serious crime than theft, and was sentenced to 6 years of hard labor. It was believed she had been put up to make the accusation by a criminal network, personal enemies of Ravenna. So they reviewed all this evidence, and then they found them guilty, immediately arrested him. Like, this is a wealthy elite. Wealthy elites have all the power. Couldn't buy his way out, was immediately arrested, but then it wasn't real. In March of 1879, 9 J-men from the village of Sakir were brought to Katsuki, Georgia, to stand trial for the alleged kidnapping and murder of a Christian girl. The case attracted a great deal of attention in the Russian Empire, of which Georgia was then a part of. While periodicals as diverse in tendency as Herald of Europe and St. Petersburg Notices expressed their amazement that medieval prejudice should... It's the medieval prejudice. It's not that they do it. That medieval prejudice should have found a place in the modern judiciary of a civilized state. New York Times hinted darkly of strange J sex with unknown practices. So this is 1879, and they're running with the same thing. I can't believe in this day and age that these ancient stereotypes are still being used. They don't deny the shit. They just can't believe that we're just still making up these same stories. The trial ended in acquittal, and the Orientalist Daniel Chawoslow published a refutation of the blood libel. 1882. Tizarzar, I don't know, Tizarzar blood libel. The Jays of the village of Tizarzar, Hungary, were accused of the ritual murder of a 14-year-old Christian girl, Esther Solimausi. The case was one of the main causes of the rise of anti-Semitism in the country. The accused persons were eventually acquitted. I wonder who the judge was. Back then, were the judges all Jays, or is that just a new thing? In 1889, Hilsner, in 1889, Vagabond was accused of murdering a 19-year-old Christian woman, Anazeke Harulzlova, with a slash to the throat. Despite the absurdity of the charge, Hurd was later and future president of Slovakia spearheaded Hilsner's defense. He was later blamed for it by Czech media because of this. In March 1918, Hilsner was pardoned by Austrian Emperor Charles I. He was never exonerated, and the true guilty parties were never found. So, are we to believe that not only was it like this Jay was falsely accused, but years and years later, it was so important that he be exonerated. He was a vagabond, they said. A Czech vagabond. He was just a homeless man or some shit. And he was accused of it, and it was so important that this random homeless man, I mean, come the fuck on. 20th and 21st centuries, here we go. In the 1903 Kishinev pogrom, an anti-J revolt started when an anti-Semitic newspaper wrote that a Christian Russian boy, Mikhail Rybachenko, was found murdered in the town of Dubosary, alleging that the Jays killed him in order to use the blood in preparation of matzah. Around 49 Jays were killed and hundreds wounded, with over 700 houses being looted and destroyed. So the picture of the wait, what? Oh, this is all the Jays that were killed, huh? Funny yapping. Look at me yapping while educating. I'm reading historical narratives because I'm yapping. In the 19 and again, who is going to say that? Who is going to hear this and be like, "Yeah, dude, read, not say read on, I want to learn more." Like, this is crazy. Even if it's the J, if the J is so confident that me reading this is going to dispel the myth because it's just a myth, why not encourage it? But at the end of the day, it's always the same crybaby bullshit. Snap, I know Karen's real. Jumping off Karen, I know you're real. What do you think? Is this interesting to you to know about the blood libels and all this other stuff, that evidence that shows the Jays are who I say they are? Or do you think I should just start talking about, I don't know, Trump renaming something or something like that? Which one do you think is more interesting? In the 1910 Shiraz blood libel, the Jays of Shiraz, Iran, were falsely accused of murdering a Muslim girl. The entire Jay quarter was pillaged. The pogrom left 12 dead Jays and about 50 injured. About 50. Anti-Semitic flyer in Kiev. What? Kiev? But I thought Kiev was new to the situation. In the 1910s, with a picture of a dead Yeshushunisky issued sometime during the trials of Bill. It's amazing how, this just consistently persists, and it's not like you hear all these other stories. Good thing you watched all day yesterday, Bruce. You dumbass. I gotta go. I will. I'm about to jump. Just so that there are 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 20, 22 more of these things to read. 22 more of these false accounts that exist just over and over again throughout the 20th century. Because it's not true, right? We'll come back to it. We'll check it out some other time. But you guys have yourselves a wonderful day. Go get your free download, www.the-builderberg-group.com. Watch Hollywoodism. I'm going to leave you the link to Hollywoodism, which is the most important thing you can watch. And go check out our newest song, COVID Sauce. The video for it on Facebook is going to be also in the description. Go check it all out, man. Go do something. It's free to download. All it's going to ask you is how much you want to pay. You can pay nothing, or you can or $280 or $2,800. You get it. Do that. Go get the music that will change your fucking perspective on music. And go check out everything. Just go educate yourself. Do what you can. And most importantly, as always, the most important thing I say throughout this whole thing every damn time is that you pedophiles kill yourself.